and welcome to another episode of the Cool Weirdos podcast. Cool Weirdos is my brand. Weirdos stands for while everyone is replicating, demonstrate originality. I am your host, Asha Cerise, and we are getting ready to dive into a new wonderful topic. It is quite a serious topic, so trigger warning: if you are triggered by certain heavy topics, you may want to brace yourself, or maybe this is not the episode for you. We are going to jump right in and get started. So on this episode, I wanted to talk about something that I've been wanting to talk about for a while. It's actually a topic that I don't often discuss publicly. I have talked about it on my family's podcast, Table Talk Thursdays, briefly. I did do a live on Facebook about it last year sometime. And you know, people that are close to me know my full story and my experience with this topic. But it's not something that I often talk about because I don't want to make that my main platform. I don't want to be looked at as someone that is still living in that time. I don't want to be referred to or looked at as a victim. And when I do share parts of my story, I will be referring to myself as my younger self because I am no longer that person. I am no longer in that space, and I have done lots of work to heal and move forward from that time of my life. But I actually wanted to release this episode in October. All year I've been really contemplating if I want to talk about this subject, which is domestic violence. And you know, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. I'm rocking purple, a purple bracelet, just to show my support for anyone that is currently dealing with domestic violence, anyone that has dealt with it, or anyone that is still healing from it, and bring awareness to the topic. And I'm completely aware that domestic violence happens to both women and men, but since I am a woman, I will be speaking from the perspective of a battered woman, a formerly battered woman, or a woman that is speaking for women that are currently dealing with abuse. But if you are a man and you are dealing with abuse, or you are in an abusive situation, please apply everything that I'm saying to you. Just know that as I'm speaking, I will be using feminine terms. So what is actually domestic violence? Because you know, a lot of people have different definitions of domestic violence or abuse, period. It doesn't necessarily have to be from someone that you're living with or in a relationship with. Domestic violence is, you know, people that you are related to or live with, or just in your close circle, that can be considered domestic violence as well, or just abuse in general, even if it's happening from someone that is not in your circle. There are several different types of abuse. I'm going to be talking about a few, just to give definitions, but I'm going to be diving deeper into just a couple of them, based on my own personal experience and wisdom on the topics. So, of course, we know that there's psychological abuse, verbal abuse, which can be emotional or mental abuse. And, you know, there was a movie that came out this year or actually a series that came out on Netflix this year called Made. And she was dealing with psychological abuse, and there was a lot of comments and conversations happening surrounding that series as to was she actually being abused. And you know, I saw someone saying most of the situations that she was based on herself, putting herself in those positions, which, you know, could be true, but that doesn't negate the fact that she was actually dealing with abuse at home. So I wanted to actually read some of the things on this website. I don't even want to paraphrase. I want to just read it because a lot of people aren't clear on emotional abuse and mental abuse. Here are some examples. Having unrealistic expectations, such as making unreasonable demands of you, expecting you to put everything aside and meet their needs, demanding you spend all your time together, being dissatisfied no matter how hard you try or how much you give, criticizing you for not completing tasks according to their standards, expecting you to share their opinions, And demanding that you name exact dates and times when discussing things that upset you. And you cannot do this, they may dismiss the event as if, or if you cannot provide them with exact dates and times, they may dismiss it as if it never happened. And this information that I'm reading is off of verywellmind.com. Just wanted to throw that out there. Also, another forms of emotional abuse is invalidating you. And some examples are undermining, dismissing, or distorting your perceptions of your reality. Refusing to accept your feelings by trying to define how you should feel. Requiring you to explain how you feel over and over. Accusing you of being too sensitive, too emotional, or crazy. Refusing to acknowledge or accept your opinions or ideas as valid. Dismissing your requests, wants, and needs as ridiculous or unmerited. Suggesting that your perceptions are wrong or that you cannot be trusted by saying things like you're blowing things out of proportion or you exaggerate. Accusing you of being selfish, needy, or materialistic. If you express your wants or needs, the expectation is that you should not have any wants or needs. Another example of emotional abuse is creating chaos, starting arguments for the sake of arguing, making selfish and contradictory statements, sometimes called crazy making, having drastic mood changes or sudden emotional outbursts, nitpicking at your clothes, your hair, your work, and more, behaving so erratically and unpredictably that you feel like you are walking on eggshells. Another form of emotional abuse is using emotional blackmail, and some examples of that is manipulating and controlling you by making you feel guilty, humiliating you in public or in private, using your fears, values, compassion, or other hot buttons to control you or the situation, exaggerating your flaws or pointing them out in order to deflect attention or to avoid taking responsibility for their poor choices or mistakes, denying that an event took place or lying about it, and punishing you by withholding affection or giving you the silent treatment. Ladies, listen, because some of these things we women do as well. And you think that you are not the abuser, but you could possibly be emotionally abusing your spouse as well. So pay attention. Acting superior, treating you like you're inferior, blaming you for their mistakes and shortcomings, doubting everything you say and attempting to prove you wrong, making jokes at your expense, telling you your telling you your opinions, ideas, values, and thoughts are stupid, illogical, or do not make sense, talking down to you or being condescending, using sarcasm when interacting with you, acting like they are always right, know what is best, and are smarter, controlling and isolating you, controlling who you see or spend time with, including friends and family, monitoring you digitally, including text messages, social media, and email, accusing you of cheating and being jealous of outside relationships, taking or hiding your car keys, demanding to know where you are at all times or using GPS to track your every move, treating you like a possession or property, criticizing or making fun of your friends, family, and coworkers, using jealousy and envy as a sign of love and to keep you from being with others, coercing you into spending all of your time together and controlling your finances. All of these are different examples of emotional abuse. And emotional abuse takes different forms, such as accusations of cheating, other signs of jealousy and possession, constant checking or attempts to control the other person's behavior, constantly arguing or opposing, criticism, gaslighting, isolating the individual from their family and friends, name calling and verbal abuse, refusing to participate in the relationship, shaming or blaming, silent treatment, trivializing the other person's concerns, and withholding affection and attention. So all of these things are considered emotional abuse. And when I read and understand what emotional abuse is, I know that I have experienced it as well as I have been the abuser in a toxic relationship, in the abusive relationship that I have experienced. I was doing many of the things that are on this list, needing to know where you are at all times. We had GPS trackers on each other's phones checking emails. What are your passwords? Social media. Let me see your phone. Who is this? Who is that? Ma'am. And that is why I'm so big now on trusting. Trust is very important to me. And I'm not about to be snooping through anybody's phone. I'm not trying to control where you are, who you spend time with, who your friends are, all of that. And I've spoken about that on previous shows. If you go back to season 1, me and TJ talked about having friends of the opposite sex. And, you know, that's important to me to allow my future partners or whatever to feel comfortable with having whoever their friends are. As long as we have trust within our relationship, I'm not trying to control who anybody spends their time with. And I know that everybody has their own individual boundaries, and everyone has relationships, handles their relationships differently. But for me, that is too much. I'm not trying to control any grown person. And that's just me. So that is one form of abuse that we're going to talk about today. Another form of abuse is physical abuse, which we all pretty much know what that is. That is intentionally causing bodily harm to someone or restraining someone against their will. Financial abuse, including withholding money, stealing money, and restricting the use of finances. And of course, trigger warning with sexual abuse. Sexual abuse includes molestation, rape, of course, restricting access to birth control or condoms, unwanted kisses and touch, and coercion. So I wanted to put emphasis on that, restricting access to birth control and condoms. Many people may not look at that as sexual abuse, but if someone is removing a condom during sex without the other partner's permission, or continuing to have sex after the condom has broken, or refusing to put one on after they've been asked to, or hiding someone's birth control, trying to get them pregnant even though they're not wanting to get pregnant at the time. Those type of things can be very manipulative and can be a form of sexual abuse. And actually, I find it, if you're in a relationship and you all say you're trying to have a child, like the Tyler Perry movie, Why Did I Get Married? He wanted a child. She didn't even let him know that she had got her tubes tied. That's not necessarily sexual abuse, but I think that that can be manipulation within a relationship, not being honest about what's going on if you all are trying to be on the same page. And also coercion. There was a big conversation going online about that. And, you know, we've talked a lot about coercion in the news with different celebrities that are being charged with sexual assault because they're coercing people. And the jury's still out on that with a lot of people. A lot of people don't believe that that's sexual abuse, but no means no. That was a conversation that I saw going on in a Facebook group where a lot of men were saying, and some women, you know, it depends on how the woman says no. If she says no and she's laughing and giggling and she might want you to keep going, I understand that you have to gauge the room or whatever, but I think that people should stop playing those type of games. If you are a woman and you are becoming sexually involved with someone, or you're getting hot and heavy and getting close to that, and you say no playfully, but you want them to keep going, don't even play those type of games, because the lines are too blurred, and it's the climate that we're in doesn't allow that type of play. And some people were saying, you know, once you're there and it's about to go down, you can't change your mind at the last minute. Yes, anybody can. Anybody can say, you know what, I'm good. I don't want to go further than this. If they stop, no matter how deep into the session you're in, no pun intended, you know, if somebody wants you to stop, then you need to stop. And also coercion when it comes to like trying to guilt people into having sex with you, or intimidate them, or make them feel like if they don't have sex with you, something may happen to them. If they don't have sex with you, then, oh, you acting childish, you're this, you're that, trying to force somebody or convince someone by shaming them or making them feel like that's their only option. Cut it out. You're being a damn creep. You're being an abuser. So now that we have that out the way, I just wanted to, you know, go over those different types of abuse that are out here. So I was going to do a little bit of sharing, and you know, I'm not sharing so that I can get pity. I'm not sharing to trauma bond with anybody. I don't want you to look at this and feel like you want to attach to me because it's something that you've experienced as well. But I do understand that some people prefer not to, or just simply can't allow themselves to receive certain information, advice, or tips from people that haven't experienced the things that they're experiencing, never walked in their shoes or never walked in shoes that are similar to theirs. And I understand that. It goes for anything that we talk about when it comes to, you know, people that have never been married or aren't married, giving advice to people about marriage. Some people are like, you know, how can you tell me something that you've never experienced or not experiencing right now? You know, people always say that about individuals that don't have children giving parenting advice. And I still feel, you know, kind of iffy about that, because I feel like, you know, when it comes to children, everybody's just trying to figure it out, even when you become a parent. But I also know that when I become a parent, my mindset and my thoughts about parenting may be completely different. So I get that. And I understand people that only want to receive that type of advice from parents. So I'm talking about abuse today. And, you know, this is something that I've experienced. I'm not talking just from based off of something that I've read or something that I think about or something that I want to tell people about from a space of judgment or, you know, being a know-it-all. This is something that I've actually experienced. And I would say my younger self experience. So my younger self experience, I would say psychological abuse from, you know, as far as verbal abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse, and definitely financial abuse as well. I would say up until I was 23 years old, the men who I lived with, including my father, my uncle, and my ex, were very, very short-tempered. And some of them were violent at times and rageful and, you know, just, it wasn't just like, oh, I get mad and I just talk my shit or whatever. Going into full-fledged rages, where they're just, you know, on a different level, tapped out. You looking at them and it don't look like them because they're that upset and you just don't know what they may do. Whether that's arguing and fussing and name calling or being insulting or, you know, putting their hands on me. My dad is one of those old school parents, so his discipline was physical. And, you know, when you get to a certain age, you just don't want nobody putting their hands on you, regardless if they're your parent or not. And my dad is old school, and I'm not making any excuses for him, but it got to the point when I became a teenager that all of that stuff was just, you know, that was just too much for me. And, you know, family member that I live with, my uncle, he was very rageful when he got mad too. And he never put his hands on me or anything like that, but it was just never peaceful because he was pulling guns out when he got mad and shooting outside in the air and threatening to pull guns out on people when he's upset. And it's just a household full of women. And so, you know, that can be scary at times when you are vulnerable women and this person is getting upset about little things, and the first thing they want to do is make everybody uncomfortable by talking about what guns they have. And so, you know, as far as I lived in those two households as a child, and then growing up feeling like you're escaping that, hurrying up, rushing for love. You know, I met an older man when I was 16. He was 23, and I started dating him at a young age. And he was in and out of prison or whatever for a couple of years. So I got my first apartment when I was 18. And less than a year later, maybe about 11 months later, he moved in with me. And I was 19. He was 20, I think 26 maybe when we moved in together. And, you know, when you're used to a certain type of person's reactions when they're upset and things like that, it is almost, it's normalized for you. It's not normal, but it's normalized. So of course I didn't see those red flags, and I didn't understand really how to recognize and make moves when you do see red flags when I was that young. I just wanted to be with the person that I loved at the time. I just wanted to live with that person. And there were no red flags in the beginning. It happened as soon as we moved in with each other. So of course it didn't start off that way. It started happening little by little. And I'm looking at notes here just so I can stay on track. So yeah, I was in such a rush to get into my adult life. I moved out. I wanted to be free and happy, and feeling like, oh, if I get out of these households or whatever, I can live my life. I can be responsible for myself. I can have that freedom. And, so I felt like I was mature enough to date this older man. And, like I said, he moved in with me. So again, the abuse did not come without warning once we moved in with each other, but it started happening gradually. It started with, the control. Who you talking to? Why you looking at that guy? You need to be doing this, all of that. You need to stay away from this person. Isolation from family, manipulation, intimidation. I remember it just started gradually getting worse and worse. So I remember one time we were laying in the living room, like on a little pallet on the floor, and we got into an argument, and I kind of got up and grabbed the blanket and took it with me. And he jumped up like, don't pull no blanket off of me, and stood over me and was like flinching at me. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So it was starting to get more and more, uncomfortable. And I've always been somebody who journals. Over the past 2 years, I've finally become consistent with my journaling and journal every day. But back then, I would mostly journal when I was upset or when I was going through something. I still have these old journals. And I remember writing in my journal that, what we were going through. And I said, I believe that he's going to hit me soon. And of course, the very next journal entry was, well, he hit me. So the first time he put his hands on me, it was about, I was talking on the phone with my cousin, and he kept coming in. I was in the bathroom talking to her on the phone, looking in the mirror, because, I just wanted some privacy to just be free to talk to my cousin on the phone without somebody right there in my ear. And he just kept coming in the bathroom, I'm like, oh, he wants some attention. I was just laughing and joking about it. And back then, we were teenagers. So we would call everybody a bitch. A bitch this, a bitch that. Like, it wasn't supposed to be, like, disrespectful towards a man or whatever. It was just how me and her talked. So I think I said something like, oh, yeah, he wants some attention. But as soon as I got off the phone, the bitch won't even be stud me or something like that. Not even thinking about it. We continued with our conversation, and when me and her got off the phone, I noticed that he was like in the front room closet doing something. We had a walk-in closet in the front, and I looked and I didn't pay no attention, and I got in the shower. So I'm in the shower minding my own business. Next thing I know, he pulls back the shower and he's like, so what did you say on the phone about me? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he was like, you called me a bitch? And so I kind of like laughed a little bit. I was like, and as soon as I laughed, he slapped me across my face. And I was so shocked. I literally was just like I literally couldn't believe that it had just happened. So, of course, the fight went on after I got out the shower, and, he hit me a few more times or whatever. And I just knew that I would never accept this from a man, because I had dealt with it from relatives, and I just knew that I would never be that girl to be in an abusive relationship. But that night happened. He apologized, and I accepted it and acted, and I stayed. And that's something that I thought I never would do. And what I found out is when he kept coming in and out of the bathroom, he had snuck and put another phone in the bathroom on record. And when he was in that closet, he was listening to the recording to see what it is that me and her were talking about. So that's how it started. And again, I'm not going to go into every story because there were several incidents. But, again, what I wanted to say is that we need to show more grace for people that are in abusive relationships, because it's easy to say, why won't that person just leave? Or couldn't be me, or they stupid. They dealing with that. Like, everybody has an opinion about people that are in abusive relationships, but there's so many factors that go into why people stay. Again, like I said, childhood upbringing, and I want to repeat, a lot of shit is normalized, but it's not normal. So if you growing up around dysfunction and abuse and people talking shit to you and belittling you and insulting you and controlling your every move and putting their hands on you, that shit is low-key going to be your norm. So when it happens to you as an adult, you're going to do one of two things. You're going to run away from it because it's like, oh no, I know what this is like. I'm not dealing with this shit. Or you're just going to be so used to it that it's like, oh, here we go again. And then you're going to be in that cycle of, oh, they apologize. That's the things that happen. And that's why, I talk about how I would like to be a gentle parent. And it's easier said than done. I understand that because kids can work your damn nerves. I know that. And kids get into things. But just imagine not setting that as a standard for your children, that it's okay when somebody gets upset with you to put their hands on you, or because I'm bigger and stronger than you and I run this and I pay the bills and I keep you alive, that I can do whatever to you. I can whoop your ass, I can cuss you out, and you can't do shit about it because you're my child, you belong to me, and these are the rules and this is how shit goes. So when you set that standard for kids, thinking that they're mine, they have to do what it is. If they do something wrong, I'm gonna whoop their ass. Think about what that does to a child growing up, and how that affects their self-esteem, how that affects their coping skills, how that affects their communication skills, how that affects their conflict resolution. Think about all of that when you're raising these children. And again, with the low self-esteem, that is one reason why people stay in these toxic ass abusive relationships. Not feeling like they deserve better, not feeling like they can do better, not feeling like there's better out there. Just that low self-esteem. And again, that's another reason why, a lot of people don't know my story, but that's another part of the reason why I'm so big on building self-esteem in children, why I have my youth enrichment program, and why confidence building and self-esteem building is so important to me. Also, petty shit, competing with other women, which is another one of the reasons why I was staying in an abusive relationship. My ex had lots of baby mamas and exes, and he was desired by a lot of women, and I was just so immature emotionally and so petty back then that I'm like, I done been through too much with this dude. I'm not about to let him go be with another woman when I done paid my dues with him. He belongs to me. He's not about to go get with them. You make yourself feel like this person is the prize, when really you the one suffering, trying to keep them away from other women. And a lot of people do that. It's as silly as it sounds. A lot of people stay in these relationships because they're competing with other women, or because they don't want to look bad on social media, because you're posting all these pictures of looking cute and trying to be couple goals, but behind closed doors is hell, and you don't want anybody else to see that. So a lot of that, plays into why women stay, or why people stay. Again, shame, embarrassed for anybody to find out, outside of even social media, just your family and your loved ones. Like, that is not something that anybody wants to admit. You didn't have people around you. You done brought this person to the family gatherings. If y'all got married, they done been at your wedding. This person, your family loves them. Your family is rooting for y'all, your loved ones. This shit is embarrassing, to know that this person that you brought into their lives and that you have been speaking so highly about is mistreating you. And so a lot of people are just ashamed to even allow that to be revealed. And another thing is guilt, feeling like that person can't succeed without you there, or they're not going to do well if you leave them, worrying about how they will handle you leaving them, or what they're going to do to maintain themselves if you leave. And again, as silly as it sounds, this happens. I know I was concerned about When I did decide to leave, like where are they going to stay? Are they going to be able to maintain this? All of those factors were running in my head when I should have been just concerned about myself at the time. Another thing, resources, finances. Some people just don't have the finances or the resources or the support to get away. So everybody doesn't have a supportive family or a support system or loved ones or friends. Everybody doesn't have someone they can call and let me come stay with you while I get myself together, get back on my feet. Some women don't even have jobs. Some women don't have money or any money saved up or nobody they can get it from. And they just simply have to stay because they have no other options financially, or they don't know about the support or resources that they can tap into to be able to leave comfortably. And again, children, some people, thankfully I didn't have children from that union. So that everybody's not that fortunate to not have children to think about. And some people don't want to break up their home. They don't want to take their children through that. They need the support, not even just financially, but just having that support system with their children. And they think about that when they're in these abusive relationships and thinking like, what will I do? What will my children do? And of course, love, or what you may think is love, that could be trauma bonding. It could be you've gotten with this person and they have said so many things that you can relate to, or they said so many things that they've been through that you empathize with, that you feel like it's true love, when it could just be a trauma bond, or it could be love. A lot of people say, oh, you can't love your abuser. Yes, you can. You can have genuine, deep love for somebody that's hurting the hell out of you. Parents can be the abuser and you still love them. Spouses can be your abuser, and even people with Stockholm syndrome. It could be a cult leader or somebody that you look up to, that you love so much that you don't even hold the abuse that they put on you against them, or you forgive them so easily because you love them. And it's, that's a big factor. People are like, why didn't they just leave? Why don't they just get away? They love them, and they are afraid to break their own heart. And again, with the fear part of why people say, some people fear being alone. Some people would rather have any old piece of man, piece of woman, as long as they have them, somebody in the bed breathing with them, or somebody in the house walking around, before they would want to be alone, even if it's a toxic, abusive relationship. Some people fear being alone. Some people fear wasting their time. Again, that goes back to not wanting other people to have them, or just feeling like, well, I done spent several years of my life being with this person. I'm not just going to walk away and waste all those years. We'll get to that in a second too. And also, deeper fear when it comes to being afraid for your life or your loved one's life. It's not always easy to just get up and leave an abusive person. Obviously, this person is putting their hands on you or abusing you in a way, intimidating you to the point that you feel they could actually hurt you for real. And some of these abusers will threaten your family as well and your loved ones. They'll say, if you do this, I'm gonna do this to you. And they know all your people's addresses and everything, because you've been in a relationship with them. They done been to your mama's house. They done been around your cousins and all of that. And they can threaten your loved ones when you threaten to leave them, or when you start pulling away from them. So all of those are factors. And there's plenty of more why people may stay in these abusive relationships. And, so I, again, want to ask people to stop judging. And there's other ways that you could support and help and encourage people that are in these abusive relationships. But to just judge and shame them when you don't know the full story, you have to really give people grace, because you just simply don't know. So again, when it comes to offering that support and everything, there were a few viral stories that went around this year that had something to do with abuse and violence towards women. One in particular that stood out to me was a story. There was some type of domestic dispute. I'm not sure if the girlfriend tried to break up with the boy or what happened, but there was a 19-year-old, and he shot his 19-year-old girlfriend Then when the mother and I think the mother's girlfriend came out the house to try to help, he shot and killed them. And 2 neighbors tried to come help, and he also shot both of them. One of them died. And most of the comments that I saw when I was reading that article was, where were the men? Because all of the victims were women. There was another viral video of, I know everybody saw it, it was a professional football player or something, I believe. He was abusing this woman. And also I've seen there was another video of this guy just abusing this woman and filming it for Facebook Live. And again, the comments, she doesn't have any brothers. Where are the men? Where is anybody that can help her? And then again, there were women. If it was me, I would do this. If it was me, I would have shot him. If it was me, you know, of course, all of the if it was me and how it wouldn't happen to them and how they would have handled it. But the main question was, where are these women's brothers? And first of all, some women don't even have men in their circle that they can call to protect them in these situations. Some people don't have dads that are down for it, and cousins and brothers and homies that can pull up and shut shit down when they're being disrespected, mistreated, or abused. And also there's another part of this, and this is something that I can personally relate to, that some women, we have men in our family and we have men in our friend groups that we could call, but we have chosen not to in order to protect them and to keep them safe from harm. And I remember talking to one of my guy friends one time, and it was a conversation about Black women needing protection and needing to be protected by our men. And his response was, who's gonna protect us? And I understand that Black men need protection. They're unprotected as well when it comes to society as a whole, especially in America. I get that, I understand that. But when it comes to the relationship between Black men and Black women protect Black men all the time. And not even just in romantic relationships, just in general. In many ways that they may not even realize. And, you know, this is the way we've been conditioned. Even in slavery, they would take the biggest, strongest, most powerful Black man on the plantation and do buck breaking practices, which could range from a man raping them. It could be them getting beat and tortured, and even to the point where they will tie half of their body on one horse and half of their body on another horse and have the horse go in different directions to literally rip this man apart in front of their women, in front of the women of the plantation and the men as well. But those women, they took that fear that was instilled in them of, if these people can do this to this most powerful Black man that I felt protected by all this time, if they can do that to this man right in front of me, I need to let my little boys know, my sons know, that this is how you comply, this is how you move, so that this won't happen to you. And so they are instilling that fear into those little boys to protect them, to make sure that doesn't happen to them. All of that, we're natural nurturers and protectors anyway, but we are lacking the protection as well. And even, you know, just growing up, especially in the Black neighborhood or Black environment, whether you're from the hood or wherever you're from, most of us was taught that you don't call the police on your people. You don't call, you know, you don't share what goes on outside of this house. And sometimes your people is the ones that's hurting you, and you don't have nobody to call but the police, but you're conditioned and programmed that we don't get the law involved into our problems. You know, and sometimes, like I said, it's your people that's doing the worst to you, but you don't want to get the person involved in the system. And a lot of times we don't call our brothers and cousins and homeboys because we don't want them messed up in our mess. It's usually, you know, the relationship that we're in or whatever is going on. We don't want to call them because we don't want them to get hurt. We want to protect them from being hurt. You know, they could come over and whoop the dude's ass, or they can get their ass whooped, or they can, you know, it can escalate where somebody might get killed or shot or hurt, stabbed, or locked up and get in the system, get put in prison, put in jail, or put in the system because they're coming to protect you. And that's something that we have to work on as a whole in the community. Like, Black men, we need y'all to let us know, is this something that you're willing to risk sacrificing your freedom, your life, or whatever for us to protect us? Because many of us don't even think to call you or count on you because we're so busy trying to protect you. We don't want you to be hurt. We don't want you to be harmed. But then at the same time, who else is going to protect us? So we need to know that we can count on you, or that it's okay to reach out to you if we need that help. And again, another reason why it's difficult to even step in or reach out to people when you're in a domestic violent type situation. Some people are getting hurt in the midst of helping, just like that article I was just talking about with the 19-year-old. All those women that came to his aid or her aid when he shot her, the 19-year-old, 3 of those people were killed just trying to help her. And even a loved one of mine, I won't mention what relationship they are to me because I don't know if they want that publicly known. They had one of their cousins at their house that was, hiding from her abusive husband. And, they're just at her house. The man showed up. He didn't knock on the door. He didn't ring the doorbell. He didn't holler. He didn't say hooty hoo, nothing. He just shot through the front door. And it wasn't his wife that got shot. It was my loved one that got shot. And luckily her children weren't there at the time, because where he shot through is where her children usually sit and play. And, she had to go through that just being a helping hand. And those are the type of things that people worry about when you're trying to involve other people. And another thing, when you're in these abusive relationships and you get people involved and you start reaching out and you say, hey, come help me, come get me, come whoop this nigga, excuse my language, but come whoop this fool's ass. And then you turn right around and get back with them. That can be exhausting for your loved ones that are really rooting for you to get out of this situation, or they may just be finding out and they come help you. They put themselves on the line to help you, and then you turn right around and get back with this person. That's a lot for your loved ones as well. Not saying that should stop you from seeking help, but a lot of people play wolf, cry wolf. A lot of people, get other people involved, and then they turn right around and get back with the person. They want to bring them around and expect everybody to be smiling and happy that you're back together, when at that point, that person's image in your loved one's eyes is tarnished. So, when I was in my abusive relationship, I actually left twice. And the first time I left, because, sometimes it takes feeling like this person may actually kill me for people to leave, because you think, they're putting their hands on you. They might slap you, punch you, do it. I've had my hair pulled out, all kind of different things. But it wasn't until we got into a fight one time, and it was over something petty. I looked in his phone and saw a text message from a female. He was in the shower. I confronted him about it. He got out swinging, literally swinging, as he got out, almost slipping and sliding on the bathroom floor to get to me. And the fight somehow spilled over into the bedroom. And all I remember is him on top of me, strangling me. I've never been strangled. I didn't play that game. When we was kids and we played that game where everybody played that game where you breathe in and out and then somebody choke you until you pass out, being silly. I never participated in that because I don't like that type of stuff, being choked out. So that was my first and only time actually experiencing somebody literally choking me out until I passed out. I just remember literally tapping my hand like, stop. And he didn't stop. And I passed out, and what woke me up was him still hitting me. So as I was passed out, he was still hitting me. And I woke up, he was going crazy, and it was a mess. So when he left, I gathered my things, I gathered everything that I could in 2 bags and stayed with a friend overnight and took a plane to Birmingham first thing the next day to get away. I was living in Denver at the time, so it took for me to feel like this fool will kill me for me to be scared enough to leave. And I remember I took a picture of myself before I left, and my face was swollen, my eyes were puffy, I had a mark on my face right here. But what stood out to me the most when I look at the picture of my younger self, I've been referring to myself as me, I, which I said I wasn't going to do, but my younger self. When I look at that picture, what stands out the most is the emptiness in my eyes. It was just like nothing, just done, depleted, empty. When I look at that picture, and initially I was going to share the photo, for people just to bring awareness, but I said, you know what, I'm not going to do that. Just know that picture of my younger self, it's just a reminder to me of how far I've come and what I've overcame. But again, mind you, I said that I left twice, so I stayed away. I stayed in Birmingham for 3 weeks. Stomach growling. I stayed in Birmingham for 3 weeks and just, stayed with family and got myself together or whatever. I ended up returning after, lots of arguments and crying and forgiveness and begging and pleading and let's work it out, let's do this. So I came back, and it just never got back to the same. It was kind of like, it was just like living with a stranger, and it was a lot of other things that were occurring at one time. I was grieving about some other things that was happening. And so a few months later, I would say it was about 3 or 4 months later, it was like a downhill spiral of mess. Like, we were distant. He was going through things that I didn't even know about. There were some other issues involved, mental issues, drug use, all kind of things factoring in, some of which I did not know about. So I just remember us going through different things. He wasn't putting his hands on me, but he was just different things that was going on that just wasn't sitting right by me. I just didn't feel comfortable. I didn't feel safe. I was leery. He was moving different. He was doing things, going back to his old ways. Not even about no women at this point. It was just about lifestyle choices and just in the streets doing whatever. And I remember he had caught a case, and I had already waited for him through two prison sentences throughout our relationship. And he was facing some time again, being in them streets. So I remember we were going to court, and at this time I had started therapy. I started going to therapy, I think, when I came back. And so there was a lot of realizations that I was starting to have when I was going to therapy. And I remember we were going to court dates or whatever, and it was the final court date, and the case was dismissed. And so, I was happy that it was dismissed. I didn't want him to go to prison or whatever, but on this particular day, we were driving home, and I was just in my feelings, thinking about some things that the therapist had talked to me about. And I was just reminiscing and going over some things that I've been through in my life as we were driving home. It was a rainy day. You just be in your feelings sometimes. So I'm in the passenger seat looking out the window, we're driving. And I think a tear, maybe 2, came down my face. So he looked and he was like, "Why are you crying?" And I was like, "I don't want to talk about it." And so he just kept asking. I was like, I'm good. I mean, I'm not good, but I'm just thinking about some things. I really don't want to talk about it right now. Kept forcing the issue. Then he just goes into a full snap rage, talking about, "Oh, you must be crying because you wanted me to get locked up today. You mad that the court got dismissed." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" So of course we're going this whole back and forth. I'm crying, trying to prove that that's not what I'm crying about. I finally tell him what it is that's on my mind. He doesn't believe me. he started just literally berating me with insults and just all of this stuff the whole time we're driving home. So I'm literally feeling this low. And when we got to the house, I didn't come up the stairs when he did. I stayed downstairs, and I was just like, I just felt so low and so depleted. I was just done. Like, I literally was done. I stood there. I wrote a letter to my mom. I was like, what if I just end it here right now? Because I'm just like, I'm just through. I just can't believe that this person that I love so much is treating me like this and feels this way about me. And I think I don't know if I had like a little rope or something that was down in the garage. I hung it up. And this was not even the first time that I did something like that was kind of suicidal. Like, I took some pills one time during our relationship. And I want to say this, like, I never wanted to end my life. I just wanted to tap into what I could do to hurt him the way he hurt me. I'm like, maybe if he sees that I do this and I end it this way, that he'll finally receive that he's put me through so much pain. And that's the type of mindset that you can be in when you're in these psychologically abusive relationships, where you will hurt and harm your own self, or even take it so far as ending your life, or attempting to try to hurt this person, because nothing else that you do will hurt them. They don't give a damn about your tears. They don't give a damn about your explanations. They don't give a damn about your confessing your undying love. And so that was the headspace that I was in. And it wasn't that I wanted to die. I didn't want to end my life. I didn't want to harm myself at all. But I felt like maybe he'll come down here and check on me in the garage, and I'll be attempting to do this, and he'll feel so bad that he'll start treating me right. That was the mindset that I was in. And so thankfully, thank God, I snapped out of it. I was down there for a long time. He never once came and checked on me. And it just made me feel like, why am I down here doing this? And this fool ain't even checked on me to see why it's taking me so long to come upstairs. So when I went upstairs, he was normal. He's like, I ordered us some pizza. And I'm like, I'm downstairs contemplating suicide. I feel as big as a damn mustard seed right now. And you around here putting a movie on, talking about you ordered us a pizza? I'm literally on the couch, laying down with my head on the side of the couch, just empty. The pizza arrived. He come bring me 2 slices on a plate, watching the movie like nothing happened. So I kept that. I was, kept that energy with me that whole night. And when I got to work the next day, because I'm the type, words of affirmation, words, expression via words, communication is very important to me, and I just have to get it out. So if I can't speak to you and you receive the words that I'm saying, I'm gonna have to send you a text message. I've sent 30-page text messages before, letters. I've written letters before, and at that time I sent him an email. So I got to work. I was the manager, so I was in the office, sending messages. I typed him up a long email, just explaining to him how I felt the day before and how I've been feeling in this relationship, and how, we're supposed to be working on our marriage and all of these things in our relationship. And, I sent that message and I went on about my day. And so he didn't hit me back up. I think it was like maybe lunchtime. And I hit him back up, and I asked him, I called him, I'm like, did you get my email? He's like, yeah, I got it. And so I'm like, okay, what are your thoughts? He's like, I don't want to talk about it right now. So I pushed the issue, just like he was pushing the issue the day before with me, to express what I was going through. And he snapped.